Welcome in all here. It is me, Eagles owner here, and Buccaneers owner here, Shaven27, and myself here are going to be going through our preseason predictions for the league this year, going team by team, division by division. Coming out a little late, but we're going to get it out to you. So we're going to be starting off here with the AFC East, looking at the Buffalo Bills here. The Bills have come into a new user this year after having quite a bit of turnover over the past couple years. So I think this AFC East division is pretty loaded. But when you look at this Bills roster here, you got quite a bit of talent. You like the offensive line could use some work. But it's not probably one of the worst lines you'll see. They still got Josh Allen and his old 99 throw power. They did bring in Leonard Fournette in the offseason. And then they got Rondale Moore, Tylan Wallace, much improved receiving core. The defense doesn't need much explanation there. You got Jerry Hughes, Ed Oliver, who's a stud, Then it's a lot of the same team, but, they're going to be pretty good this year, I feel.
Yeah, I feel like you have to like what Rondale Moore brings to this offense. Him and Josh Allen's cannon of an arm, they're going to work real well together. And in week one, they really showed what they could do offensively. They put up 38 points. Defensively, only gave up 7 to the Falcons. And the Falcons, I can't say anything because he beat me twice last season. So
there you go. That should tell you about all you.
That's a good win.
Yeah, that should tell you all you need to know right there. But yeah, this Bills team, I feel like it's got a lot of promise this year. It's a tough AFC East division to try and win, but we'll move on here to the Dolphins roster here. The Dolphins team last year that I do believe went pretty far last year. I do believe they made the playoffs. This offensive line is much improved, though. You got Laramie Tunsil, Cody Whitehair, Frank Ragna, Michael Dieter at right guard, Isaiah Prince, and Foster Sarrell at right tackle. At least you addressed that with Foster Sarrell, so you got at least a nice piece, nice young offensive line. You got Rosen, who's played pretty well. You brought in Kamara on the 1-year deal, so that's going to give your running game a lot to work with. You got Jerry Jeudy, Alshon Jeffrey, Albert Wilson. Got quite a bit of speed to complement Alshon Jeffrey. Defensively, you got Max Crosby. He's pretty good. Charles Harris, Devon Godchuk, Christian Wilkins. But I definitely think one of the strengths of this team is that linebacking core of, Jerome Baker, Raekwon McMillan, Tack McKinley, Dante Fowler. And then you got the cornerbacking duo, I'd say, of Xavier Howard and Bryce Hall. Couple of lockdown guys on the edge. Then you got Eli Apple probably taking up the slot there. And then you still got Minka. A nice, good team here for the Dolphins. They've played pretty well to this point.
Yeah, and you gotta like what they did in week one. Really just they played a clean game. They gave the ball to Alvin Kamara 13 times against his old team for $128 and a touchdown.
Yep, 41-29 win for the Dolphins there in week one.
You got to be, a little bit concerned with their corners going up against Michael Thomas and Jalen Reagor. They gave up 276 and 3 touchdowns to Michael Thomas.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was more just feeding him because they were down or what, but, you can't be giving that up every time.
You have to imagine that they're not going to be 32nd in giving up yards and 32nd in pass yards, giving up only 500, gave up 542 in week one. You can't imagine they're going to do that on a consistent week-to-week basis. Probably a lot of, just stats they got out ahead and, they were just chucking it up at that point. And we'll move on here to the Patriots, the reigning Super Bowl champions here, kept this roster pretty much intact. So you got to like their chances for a playoff run here. This offensive line, always good here. You're getting a little old there, right tackle with Marcus Cannon, but Shaq Mason, David Andrews, Joe Thuney, Isaiah Wynn. That's going to hold up for Trubisky here, who had a pretty good season last year in his first year with the Patriots. And then we got Sony Michel, who is injured but had a nice week one there. Obviously, a top threat in that Patriots offense. N'Keal Harry, Dorsett. The receiving core, a little bit to be desired there, but, with that offensive line, that's going to give you time for them to develop. But defensively, where the strong suit always is with this Patriots team, you've still got Stephon Gilmore, J.C. Jackson, Jonathan Jones, a nice trio of corners there. You got Devin McCourty still at free safety and Duron Harmon at strong safety. So that veteran defensive back, still intact there. like I said, though, this Patriots team won the Super Bowl last year and only added talent, so you gotta like their chances this year.
Yeah, and I really want to see how they respond. Losing Sonny Michel, he had 3 touchdowns last week, and he's out for about 6 more weeks. And they're also down Samson Ibukam for 8 weeks. So, those are 2 pretty big injuries
Yeah,
on this team. But I expect them to not really make a big impact.
yeah, no, this Patriots team is pretty good. They always find those guys that can come in and give you good quality minutes. And we move to the last team here in the AFC East, and that is the New York Jets. A team last year that I do believe went 9-7, so it's on the up, but with a much better AFC East. Are they going to repeat with that 9-7? We'll wait to find out here for this upcoming season. This team, is getting much better. You still got Le'Veon Bell. You got a nice, speedy running back, to complement him and J.J. Taylor. You got Andrew Thomas, who you took high last year to really beef up this offensive line. You got Sam Darnold still. You got Joe Burrow as his backup, but Sam Darnold, 24, he's improving pretty well. This wide receiving core, though, not bad. You took Jamar Chase. You moved up to get him this year, which really, I think, is going to add a lot of talent to this wide receiving core. And, this Jets defense has always been good. You got Leonard Williams, Quinnen Williams, Henry Anderson, Muhammad Wilkerson, talented defense. You got Derek Barnett, who you acquired last year from the Eagles, C.J. Mosley, Ja'Kai Polite. So you got a lot of talent there in that linebacking core. But I definitely think the defensive backing group here has a lot to be desired, in Tremaine Johnson, Trey Waynes, and Crevon LeBlanc as your top 3. But you did draft Elijah Griffin, who seems to have a lot of promise. And then you obviously got Monte Nicholson and Jamal Adams, a pretty nice safety tandem there for you.
Yeah, I think this team is definitely going to be built to play defense, run the ball and play defense, I think. I believe Jamal Adams is a free agent this year. But, yeah, I don't see that defense giving up 47 points every single week. I just think they're too good to do that.
Yeah,
so I think they'll turn it around here.
Yeah, Jamal Adams does have 1 year left. You'd almost got to believe they're going to re-sign him, though. You're not going to get another guy like that, and they're real easy at strong safety, so you got to believe they're going to re-sign him. But, this Jets team, like you said, they're going to be a run-heavy team. First in rushing yards after week 1 with 180. But you don't, like you said, you don't expect them to be gashed like that every week defensively, so I think these defensive numbers will come down. But into our predictions for this division, I know when I speak for myself here, I got the Patriots taking it, probably at a 13-3, 14-2 record. They just have too much talent, I think, for any of these other teams in the AFC East. I do believe one of these other 3, though, could potentially be a wild card team.
Yeah, I got the Patriots finishing first. 2-3 is pretty interesting. I think, you could say Bills, and then I said Bills, then Dolphins. If you wanted to switch to those, I couldn't really fault you there at that. And then the Jets coming in at 4th. The Jets they're probably one of the best 4th place teams in this league, though. This is a tough division.
Yeah, you're probably playing in probably the toughest division, maybe other than the AFC South in the AFC. So, as much as you've added talent, is it enough to maybe get over the hump of these other good teams? We'll just have to wait and find out this year. As we do move along to the AFC South here, a division that last year produced 3 playoff teams. I do believe the Titans won it, and then the Colts and Jags. Oh wait, no, I think the Jags did make it, didn't they?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and the Colts made it, the Jags made it, and the Titans all made it. And then the Texans team has had a lot of turnover, but now you've got a pretty consistent, good user there for the Texans team, who was the one that hung up the 47 points on the Jets last week. So this is a scary division. I would hate to be in this division. But, like we said, starting off here at the Texans, take a look at their roster. You got Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins. You got a lot of that core still there for the new user. This offensive line, obviously, just like in real life, is going to need some work. But you did draft Bam Adil Olaseni, with your first pick last year. He's already a 74 overall. Right guard, you got Zach Fulton, Nick Martin at center. Left guard, lot to be desired there with only a 65 overall. But you've developed Titus Howard pretty well. So Deshaun Watson hopefully isn't running for his life like crazy. You drafted C.J. Verdell as well, a nice complementary running back, and then this wide receiving core speaks for itself with Kiki Kute, Will Fuller, and DeAndre Hopkins. Defensively, you got an aging J.J. Watt, but he's still a 94 overall, so still a lot of talent there. At that other right end position, a lot to be desired there. But you got DJ Reader, a nice run stopper at your D tackle. You do have a nice edge defender in Bradley and Ney, who's only 23, 74 overall. You like that. And then you got Benardic McKinney, Zach Cunningham, and then you got Duke Ejiofor at that right linebacker position. So pretty good linebacking core there for the Texans team. And then you get to the secondary, a lot to be desired here. You got Mike Hilton, Mackenzie Alexander, Josh Norman, and Cameron Dantzler. I mean, a lot of guys who just aren't quite, what you'd want. You got Mike Hilton. He's a pretty good slot corner, but after that, it's just a lot to be desired with the 33-year-old Josh Norman probably playing one of your corners for you. But you do have Justin Reed and Tashawn Gibson to kind of play over the top for those deep balls. But, I mean, this Texans team's pretty good. It's pretty top-heavy, but, this offense last week proved that it can overcome a bad defensive performance.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go on record saying this is probably one of the better offenses in the league this year. They're pretty explosive. I mean, having DeAndre Hopkins helps. Having Deshaun Watson is really going to help as well. The defense is definitely the weakness of this team. I mean, giving up 180 yards last week, that's not going to cut it on the ground. They're going to really have to clean that up. I expect them to clean that up. That's not going to be an every week kind of thing. But, yeah, that pass defense, I think, I mean, they just don't really have all, the best players, but, scheme over players,
Yeah, you just don't have any playmakers, and that's where you're going to run into issues. But so then we got the Colts here. A team last year that made the playoffs, but did they get a new user, or the previous user left this team? I don't know if they got another user. They did not yet. So they are kind of userless right now, which is probably good for the other three teams, the Titans, Jags, and Texans. A team last year that brought in Cam Newton. You're paying Cam Newton and Jacoby Brissett quite a bit of money, so it's a pretty rough cap situation there for you. I don't really know what to say too much on this Colts team. They're kind of in a weird spot. I mean, they've got the talent to try and win now, but they also got a lot of young talent, and they've paired it with a lot of old talent. You got to like this wide receiving core, though, of Tyler Johnson, Colin Walcox, Paris Campbell, and Sammy Watkins. Though you lose T.Y. Hilton, but you bring in Watkins on a decent deal to replace him. This team definitely needs some, it needs that guy, I think, on that defensive line to really turn this team around. But you do have Darius Leonard, Okereke, Reuben Foster at the linebacker positions. Your cornerback group is pretty good there. You got Kenny Moore, Pierre Desir, Rockison, and Malik Hooker, and Jaquiski Tart in the back end. So you got quite a bit of talent on this team. If there was a user, I don't know if it'd be enough to get over the hump here in this AFC South.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. This team has some solid pieces, but, I mean, if you're just looking at their upcoming free agents this next year, Quentin Nelson, Malik Hooker, Darius Leonard, Ryan Kelly, I mean, they're going to be spending a lot of money this next offseason if they want to keep this team together. Whoever this user that comes to this team, I mean, he's got players, but I don't know if he's going to be able to hang in this AFC South.
Yeah, you're going to need the problem is you're paying your quarterbacks quite a bit of money in Brissett and Newton, and Newton's regressing. Brissett's not really that good, so you're going to run into a lot of issues paying these key guys on your team. And then next we've got the Jaguars, a team that snuck into the playoffs last year, did not have the best of opening weeks, only scoring 3 points. You've still got Nick Foles is $27 million on the books at a 65 overall. They did trade AJ Bouye to clear up some cap to start to pay this young core. They already locked up Ramsey, so you're good there. But this defense played really well last week, first in the pass. So that's something you can look to build off. But if this offense is going to be as stagnant as it was last week, I do believe you're going to run into a lot of issues with it.
Yeah, this is obviously a defensive team. I don't see them having enough in the tank to be able to go up against some good defenses in this league. The offense just really isn't all that talented.
Yeah, you got that Texans defense, which I think can be much improved, in this Titans defense, which is loaded. So, it's going to be tough to score points, if you're not getting it going. Tua is really going to have to find his stride here. Had a rough first week. You got Devontae Parker, who you brought in the offseason as with the Eagles, letting him go. You still got Chark the Shark, Seth Williams, D.D. Westbrook. So you got some talent in that receiving core for him to throw to. Defensively, though, that's where definitely the strength, I'd say, in this team lies. You brought in Solomon Thomas. You got Taven Bryan, Ashawn Robinson. It's not the most star-studded front four, but, it's definitely a front four that can get it done, I think, on a consistent basis. You have Josh Allen, who's an obvious stud, Telvin Smith, Miles Jack, Leon Jacobs. A lot of talent there in that linebacking core, but, after you've traded A.J. Bouye, you got Jalen Ramsey. Dale Roberts is 30, but you do have Trayvon Diggs, who's coming up the pipeline. You got Marcus May last year. He's kind of filled out that free safety role for you. And then you got Ronnie Harrison as your strong. This Jaguars team's in a tough spot thanks to some in real life deals from the Jaguars that still haven't came up yet. And I did misspeak. Jalen Ramsey is on a franchise tag, so you're going to have to be paying him at the end of this year. Telvin Smith's deal's up. Ashawn Robinson's deal's up. Leon Jacobs is up. So, and you still got, I believe, one more year after this of the Nick Foles deal. And I don't believe you're going to be able to find anybody to take that off. You do have one more year left of that. This Jags team's in a tough spot, and we'll just have to see this year if they can kind of persevere through.
Yeah, I think that's enough for the Jags. I think we move on to the Titans.
All right. And this Titans team is obviously loaded. So this Titans roster, top to bottom, probably one of the best rosters, I'd say, in the whole league. But you do have Adoree Jackson, who you tagged last year, Corey Davis coming up as free agents, Rashaan Evans, Harold Landry. So you have a lot of this talent coming up in the free agency. Your defense only allowed 3 points last week to the Jags offense that was just couldn't get it going. Top fives after week one across the board. I highly expect that to continue from this Titans team. Offensive line is very good, but Ben Jones is injured, which kind of is going to be tough. But Taylor Lewan, Jack Conklin, kind of nice staples there at the tackles. You still have Mariota, only a 72 overall, but you got it done last year, made it to the AFC Championship, about one. So I think you're confident moving forward. You got Derrick Henry. The strength of this team, though, definitely in the receiving core. Corey Davis, Laviska Shenault, Adam Humphries, A.J. Brown, Zay Jones, just a lot of talent. You brought in Pat Freiermuth with your first-round pick, a nice tight end there. So this offense is very scary. Defensively, Harold Landry, Melvin Ingram, Jarrell Casey, Jerry Simmons, absolutely loaded front four there. And then you got DeAndre Walker, Rashaan Evans, Jayon Brown, nice linebacking core, and then you got Adoree Jackson, Logan Ryan, and Jeff Gladney. The cornerbacking crew isn't as good as it was, but you still got quite a bit of talent there, I feel, to work with. But then you obviously got Kevin Byard, Amani Hooker, two safeties who you've Amani Hooker, who you've developed, Kevin Byard, who's just a stud. This Titans team is very good.
Yeah, and I'm not really a fan of Marcus Mariota. He's more of a game manager at quarterback. But when you can run the ball as well as the Titans can run the ball, you can have a game manager at quarterback. Mariota last week completed 80% of his passes for 86 yards and no touchdowns. That's a game manager if I've ever seen one.
Yep.
But when you can run the ball with Zach Moss and you're averaging 19 yards a pop, you're going to win a lot of football games.
Yeah,
and that defense, they're not going to give up points. So
that's what I was about to say. With this defense,
you don't need to score that many points.
Yep, you don't need to score that many points. You just need to, you just need to roll. You just need to not turn the ball over, like you said. Have a game manager there. For our AFC South predictions here, I'm at a toss-up between the Texans and Titans, and I think I'm just going to give it to the Titans based on how well they played last year. I believe this Texans team is good enough to win the division, but a wild card spot probably in their fortune for either one of these teams.
See, that's where I'm going to differ from you. I actually had the Texans coming in first and the Titans getting that 5 seed for the wild card.
There you go. It's going to be a tough division.
Yeah. I mean, I could see either way, finishing 1 and 2 there.
All right, as we move along here to the AFC North, we've got the Baltimore Ravens, a team this year coming in with a lot of hype surrounding this team here. A lot of talent on this roster. You got, Lamar Jackson, obviously. Ronnie Stanley at left tackle, absolute just stud there. You don't have a lot of interior offensive line talent, but you got Orlando Brown and Ronnie Stanley, absolute studs there at the tackle. You got Lamar Jackson. You still got Mark Ingram, Justice Hill, and Keontae Ingram as your speed backs there to complement Ingram's power. You have Marquise Brown as really one of your only main wide receiving threats, and he is injured. And he is with a bruised shoulder. I don't know if that's reading right, but it says 32 weeks for me. I don't believe a bruised shoulder is 32 weeks. But you got the tight ends of Boyle, Hurst, and Andrews there, so you can make up with a lot of your wide receiving deficits there. This interior defensive line, a lot to be desired, especially with Michael Pierce and Ogunjobi being injured. You're not really starting too much talent there. But you get to this linebacking core, you got Judon, Yannick Ngakoue, Anuasor, Kenny Young, AJ Epinesa. You got a lot of talent there in the edge defenders. But I think the definite, strong suit of this team is the cornerbacking group. You drafted Patrick Surtain very high last year. He is kind of a lockdown corner. You got Marlon Humphrey, who is a lockdown corner. Then you either got Taven Young or Bradley Roby in the slot for you. And then at free safety, Earl Thomas is injured, with a broken collarbone. He's out 8 weeks, but, that shouldn't affect you too much. Eric Murray or Deshaun Elliott, not a bad replacement there. But you do have Tony Jefferson and Antoine Brooks at strong safety. You've already addressed Tony Jefferson's replacement. This Ravens team, I think, has a lot of talent, but I just don't know if the wide receiving core, especially without Marquise Brown, depending on how long he's out, is going to be enough to carry you to a good record.
Yeah. We've heard a lot of talk from the new Ravens user about how he's going to the Super Bowl this year. We'll see. But you hate to see all these injuries so early on. I mean, he's got some big names: Ogunjobi, Earl Thomas, Michael Pierce, Marquise Brown. Those are some big names out early. And Marquise Brown really was balling for him in week 1. He's really showing that speed kills. But I don't know. I mean, this division is going to be real tough. I just, if he keeps racking up these injuries, I don't see how he finishes better in third.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough division, I think, between the Ravens, the Browns, and the Steelers. We'll get into the Bengals here. A team obviously in a rebuild. You took, I believe, Justin Ross very high in the past draft. It was Justin Ross. So you got Tyler Boyd, Justin Ross. You haven't addressed quarterback yet. I don't believe Andy Dalton is the plan at 33 years old. Joe Mixon is already injured, out quite a bit with a strained hamstring. And then, this team is getting old. There's not a lot of talent. You did get Isaiah Simmons last year. You have Ken Murray, who you got last year. So, a nice linebacking core for you, but other than that, not much to really speak of for a team that definitely is going to need another year, maybe 2, to rebuild.
Yeah. This team is definitely old. Their old players are pretty expensive. They don't have a lot of youth on this roster. And in a pretty tough AFC North, I just don't see this. I see a top 5 pick, which is what this team needs.
Yes.
They need those early picks so they can get some superstar players on this roster.
The Bengals were trying to move back, just nobody was trying to move up for that quarterback after 2 as Trevor Lawrence went number 1, so they kind of were just forced into at 3. So they kind of just got forced into taking Justin Ross there. Not that he's a bad player, but you really would have liked to move back and get a couple more quality players to fill out this roster. All right, as we move ahead here into the Browns, new user for a team last year that had quite a bit of turnover. Shockingly, you would think there'd be a Browns user that would be pretty consistent considering how good this team is. The one problem I do see for this new Browns user here is looking at the upcoming free agents here. You've got Denzel Ward, Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb, top 3. So you're going to be spending quite a bit of money, which is going to hurt you in other areas of your team.
Right. I don't see them, signing those big three right there. It's going to be tough to sign depth around them. I mean, I'm assuming they're going to lose some quality depth players here.
I think
But
here's the
this
real
roster is
question.
loaded.
Yeah, I think the real question is here. You've got Kareem Hunt on the books for $11 million this year. Do you bring back Nick Chubb? Is the question. Who only got 4 carries week 1. I just don't see why you would. But yeah, so that's the Browns team there. A pretty loaded roster in my opinion. I think a team that is definitely going to make some moves this year. To kind of go all in this year, while you don't have to pay your quarterback.
Right.
We move on to the Steelers, a team that won this division last year, but with the Ravens team that couldn't figure their stride, a Bengals team that was tanking, and an inconsistent Browns user kind of just got gifted to them. You've got T.J. Watt. You're going to be losing Big Ben's money, though. You did get, I believe it was Justin Herbert 2 years ago. Yeah, Justin Herbert. So you're just going to probably let Big Ben walk and just get your money there. That you can use to re-sign T.J. Watt. The Steelers team that kind of went all in last year had an early tough loss already this year. There's a lot of key pieces you like on this roster. You got Devin Bush, Juju, T.J. Watt, and you already got your quarterback moving forward. I just don't know if it's quite enough to win this division, maybe even make the playoffs with how good the South and the East are.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. It's going to be tough. I mean, I think this division is definitely it's pretty top heavy here. It's obviously going to be between the Browns and the Steelers. I think you'd have to give the edge to the Browns. They're just a much better roster as a whole.
Yeah, that's where I'm going to go with this next point here. Is I have the Browns winning it. I just don't quite know if you have enough talent to overcome the Browns, and like we said already with the Ravens, it's going to be tough to get that first or second wild card spot in this AFC with how good the East and the South are.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there.
All right, we'll move ahead to the West here. Probably the easiest division to pick. Not even close, I do believe.
Yeah, I think if we're gonna start with the Broncos here,
Yeah.
I think we can just both say that's our favorite here to win this division.
I don't really think it's close either. The Chiefs user has been inconsistent at best, and he was let go. The Raiders user is, I'd probably say, a year away yet, and with the new Chargers user with not much to expect, with a Denver team that last year made the playoffs and kind of made it easily, I expect the same this year.
Yeah, I mean, this roster is good too. I mean, it's not just the division. Let's not just say that. This team can, they can make moves in the postseason against better teams, but I see, at least 6 wins from this division.
Yeah, at least.
That's
probably
possible.
Yeah, 6-0 makes, I believe, probably too much sense for the Broncos. This reminds me a lot of the Patriots in the AFC East for the past how many years, where it's been, just 3 not good teams and then 1 just superior team that kind of gets 6 free wins every year.
One thing I think we should throw out there is we can't sleep on that Raiders team. We never know.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't seen much yet.
Yeah.
He could really shock us. He could go for a wild card. He could go and win this division as well.
I don't know if win the division, but I definitely think if you got the Chiefs and the Chargers, that could easily be 3 to 4 wins right there. You get, and that might propel you into a playoff spot at the wild card where those other AFC teams are bloodbathing it every week.
Right.
All right, we'll go ahead and kick it to the NFC East. I think this division's probably top 3 going to be toughest divisions, I think, in the whole the whole TFGO league this year. New Dallas user at what was pretty inconsistent users last year. I think it's really going to solidify this team. You still got the talent there. I'm projecting a pretty good record here from this Dallas team. It's just going to be a bloodbath, I think, in this NFC East, maybe minus the Giants, who are maybe 1 year away after getting Justin Fields this year. For upcoming free agents, you have Ezekiel Elliott, And that's really about it. I mean, Michael Gallup, maybe someone you want to bring back, but I mean, you've got pretty much the rest of this roster locked in, and Dak, Amari, and you've really addressed defensive help these past couple seasons. So I think this team's really, really just loaded top to bottom.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, the user took over last season when the Cowboys were 0-6, and I think he finished 8-8.
Yeah,
So, I mean, that's a quality user right there. So, obviously, I'm expecting much better than an 8-8 season this year.
yeah,
As he had 6 losses when he joined.
yeah. So as we move along here to the Giants team, like we already kind of talked about here, a team I think maybe is a year away from being in contention here. Tough start to the season. I do believe they're already 0-2. Tough opening week loss on a last second field goal to the Raiders, and then kind of a blowout last week to the Redskins, who is probably the cream of the crop in this division, so not a bad loss, but I still think you're a year away. I do think the problem is going to be upcoming is going to be a Saquon contract, a Kevin Zeitler contract. Jabril Peppers is going to need paid as well as Evan Ingram.
Yeah. I see a lot of the top players on this team are going to need contracts next season. So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that, and how they finish the rest of the season. Will decide, I think, how they're going to handle those contracts.
Yeah. So that's not too much to get more into the Giants here. We'll move ahead to the Eagles team that addressed probably their biggest need, I think, in the offseason. They brought in a lot of new wide receiving help in Jamison Crowder, drafted Jalen Waddle and Anthony Schwartz last year. A defense that played really well last year. I do believe was one of the better defenses in the league. Week to week basis, the offense just struggled too much last year, even behind good seasons from Wentz and Miles Sanders in the running game. They played the Redskins in a Week 1 loss where they had 4 interceptions and lost by 8. So take it how you may at that. Last year went 7-9. Had a rough schedule to start, so I think it kind of just ruined hope in this Eagles team. But with a new season here, we'll just wait and see. It's really up in the air, I think, for this team as to how good they can be or how bad they can be.
Yeah, I feel like you really filled a lot of the holes that you had this last offseason. Speed being the major one on offense. So we're I'd like to see how both of those receivers are gonna develop into this offense.
Yeah, and you've got already upcoming free agents of Jason Kelsey, Zach Ertz, Lane Johnson, Brandon Graham. 4 of your probably top 10 players there going to need new contracts. So I think this season will determine how they address those. As we move ahead here into my prediction here as the division winner coming out of the NFC East, that is the Washington Redskins, the team that won it last year and only got better in this offseason, handed out quite hefty one-year deals to Brandon Brooks and T.Y. Hilton to kind of help, Dwayne Haskins out. A team that was good, I think only got better this last offseason.
Yeah, I think this has to be your favorite for the division. This team really just loaded up this offseason with talent. Last year made it to the NFC Championship game, I believe.
Yep.
And they really had no talent on this roster. So it's pretty scary seeing what they have now this year.
Yeah, especially bringing in probably the best free agent in Jadeveon Clowney on a long-term deal to really help set that edge. We'll move ahead here into the NFC South. Here we've got the Falcons. I do believe they went 8-8 last year, so it's kind of up in the air as to how good they're going to be. They've got that old core, I still believe, from that Super Bowl run. They still have a lot of those players. Julio, Grady Jarrett, Deion Jones, Matt Ryan. For upcoming free agents, not really too much you're going to have to address, so this roster's kind of intact for this season or next. But I don't really know. Only 7 points in Week 1 is a little scary considering you gave up 38. But, this Falcons team I think has a lot of promise going forward.
Yeah, and I believe, if I'm correct, this Falcons team played the Bills.
Yep.
That was that loss. That's a buzzsaw up there in the AFC East. So, you know, this team, they got a lot of talent. Well, they're more top heavy, I would say. Julio
Yeah.
Jones, but you know, in this, I think the NFC South really could go any of three different ways for who can win this division.
Yeah, I feel like the Falcons are maybe a wild card team at best. I don't think they have the capabilities of winning the division.
Okay,
As we move ahead here into the Panthers team, the team that won the division last year went, I do believe, 14-2 or 13-3.
I think 13-3.
Yeah, 13-3 here. Quite a bit of upcoming free agents for him in Dante Jackson, Matt Paradis, Philip Rivers. You have on a 1 year deal who you brought in last year, won the MVP, brought him back on another 1 year deal. Kawan Short and Luke Kuechly. I'd say Dante Jackson, Kawan Short, and Luke Kuechly, three guys you definitely want to try and bring back.
Yeah, and this team, you know exactly what you're gonna get.
Yep.
You're gonna get a lot
Speed.
of throwing the ball around, a lot of speed. I mean, just looking at their two running backs, just to start, Tevin Coleman and Christian McCaffrey, there's a lot of speed there. Throw in Henry Ruggs, Curtis Samuel. This offense is really, really fast. It's more about the mistakes. You just you can't throw as many interceptions as you did last year.
Yeah.
This team could be really good, though. Really, really good.
All you
Could
got to
make it
say,
for the
week
division.
one, Henry Ruggs, 6 receptions, 250 yards, 1 touchdown. All it needs to be said for this Panthers team, I think. Here we move into the Saints team, a team last year that I do believe led the league in interceptions or was up there for sure. Has quite a bit of the same core, but Drew Brees, upcoming free agent, Ramchick, Jordan Reed, Teron Armstead, and Marshawn Lattimore. Five of your probably top 10 for sure players going to be upcoming free agents. So I think this season's going to really, that's what's going to determine what they do with those free agents.
Yeah, it looks like this entire 2017 draft class is really coming up to bite them that they had. It was a really good draft class, but this is where it comes to bite you when you got to pay them.
Yeah.
This team is really good. Like, overall, they have pieces all over. I think they moved to a 3-4, so I'm interested to see how the defense, adjusts. They didn't have the greatest first 2 weeks, and the offense is going to move the ball a lot. I mean, Michael Thomas is already sitting at 276 receiving yards through 2 weeks. So, but he is out, I believe, for 7 weeks.
Oof.
He got injured.
Yeah. I mean, when you get that high volume.
Right. I'm curious to see how this offense moves without him. I just don't see them being able to move the ball much without Michael Thomas.
Yeah, it's going to put a lot of pressure on Jalen Reagor. Here as we move to a wild card team last year in the Buccaneers, a team I think that can really make the jump this year to that division winner spot. You look at upcoming free agents quick here. O.J. Howard is really the main one here. I mean, Jordan Whitehead had a good year for you last year, so maybe you look to bring him back, but this team's pretty well locked in here.
Yeah, and obviously being a little bit biased here, we had to change offensive coordinators, change up the playbook a little bit. The offense was humming week 1. Week 2 could not get much going. And this defense last year they were flying around getting interceptions. This year, they're giving up a lot of points, giving up a lot of yards, especially through the air. That's a big thing that I'm looking at for the rest of the season is how can they fix that secondary and those linebackers for stopping the pass.
Yeah, I think I don't think the yards is what concerns me about this Buccaneers team because I do believe they probably gave up quite a bit last year. The difference is here they're not getting as many turnovers, which was a big help to the offense last year.
Right, I believe 0 interceptions in the first 2 games.
Compared to a team that I believe led the league last year.
Takeaways.
Yeah.
Right. That's very concerning to see.
Yeah, a little regression there from the Buccaneers team, but maybe it's just a little early week slump. For my division winner here, I do have the Buccaneers taking it. The Panthers team might still surprise some people with that speed. And people might not be ready for it, and that's going to get them some wins. I do believe the Panthers could be a wild card team or the Buccaneers, but I'd probably say 60-40 Buccaneers even after the 0-2 start.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go I'd have to say to start this season, the Panthers are playing a little bit better than the Buccaneers. So I'm gonna have to put them at number one, Bucks at number two, Falcons at number three, and Saints at number four. And I think, the top three teams can make a push for wild card. Well, two and three could make a push for wild card.
Yeah.
And the Buccaneers could make a push for that division title.
As we get into the NFC North here, started off with the Chicago Bears here. A team that last year made the playoffs, but I don't quite remember. I don't think they got a new user, did they?
I had no idea on that.
Oh no, they didn't. I don't believe they did. So I think you gotta definitely pick them. New Vikings user has shown a lot of promise, and the Lions had a nice week 1 win. Did not have a nice week 2 game, I do believe. So the Packers here, another team that I think has quite a bit of talent. But when you look at this Bears team, they're definitely very loaded.
Yeah, this Bears roster, they really like to defensively. They're really good. Obviously, the Bears. They like to bring a lot of blitzes. They like to press. And with Khalil Mack, you get a lot of sacks.
Yeah. Upcoming free agents for them: Akeem Hicks, Kyle Fuller, Roquan Smith, Charles Leno, and Trey Burton. So, or maybe Trey Burton, 4 guys you'd probably like to have back next year for this Bears team.
Yeah, and I believe looks like Allen Robinson is out for 8 weeks, and Prince Amukamara is out for 7 weeks. So those two pretty big injuries.
And Prince Amukamara had a good first week, 2 interceptions, I do believe. So that's going to be a tough
we'll
loss.
Have to see how they recover from those.
With this Lions team here, they're in a rough spot. You're locked into this roster. What are you gonna? I think this season will depend how their offseason goes. If they do good, maybe you try and make another run next year. If it goes bad, I think you might have to try and blow it up.
Yeah. That's a dilemma here for this new Lions user. His team overall wise might be one of the worst rosters. If he goes out and wins 7-8 games, it's going to be really hard team building. Getting enough quality players on this team. As they're free agents next year. They're losing big players here: Darius Slay, Deshaun Hand, and Kerryon Johnson.
My mind's blanking me here. Who did they take? Do you remember who they took in the first round? They're up pretty high.
Caden Stearns.
Caden Stearns, yeah. So address that safety help, but you're locked into. I think it's Marvin Jones, 5-year deal. He's already 30. You tried already to move Matt Stafford. Couldn't find a suitable trade there. It's just gonna be tough. You are probably gonna lose Darius Slay. I don't really know why you'd bring him back. Unless you rattle off 10, 11 wins this year, it doesn't make sense bringing him back. You got Deshaun Hand, who's going to need a contract. Kerryon Johnson, if you want to bring him back, a contract. It's just a tough spot for this Lions team here as we move into Green Bay.
Yeah, I could possibly see them maybe moving Slay off this season.
Yeah, it would
trying to get some draft capital.
Yeah, there's going to be some teams I feel like that are going to be interested in him. And he could probably get a good return, I think, for him if he moves him mid-season after maybe a rough start. As we move into Green Bay here, roster I think we both can agree is probably top 5, top 10 in the TFGO league, but just hasn't had a consistently good user. I think for last season for sure, and then so far we've had a pretty consistent one since he took over. But a tough week 1 loss to the Lions where Aaron Rodgers only throws the ball 12 times. You just can't really like that.
Yeah, and you see these upcoming free agents too. Really catch your eye here: Devontae Adams and Jair Alexander.
Are you gonna get food?
Those are cornerstones on this roster.
Okay, well, me and Wayne are doing some shit.
It depends how this season goes, what they want to do there. I could see possibly trading.
I might have to play this guy man because he told me the wrong time.
Just rebuilding this team.
Oh, I hope that chicken don't go bad because I fucking put it in the.
I was gonna cut it up. It'll be fine. I was gonna divvy it up though.
Well, it's already back in the freezer.
And then we move in here to a Vikings team, a new user. This Vikings team I do believe has had a pretty inconsistent user as well. I think other than the Bears, it's been pretty inconsistent users. But 2-0 to start, you gotta really like what the Vikings are doing here.
Yeah, I went up against this team this morning. Um, wasn't the greatest of outcomes for myself. Derek Carr, people were saying, Derek Carr, maybe he doesn't have it anymore. He had it today, at least. Um,
Yeah.
this team is definitely one or two in this division for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably put them number one. Bears number two. I think probably get a wild card spot. You know, this division. I think if Green Bay, gets their act together, is gonna be real tough between those three. But without being shown too much from Green Bay, I got to definitely take the Vikings to win, and the Bears probably scooting into a wild card spot, getting 3 wins from the Lions and Packers.
Yep, I'd have to agree with that.
We move into the NFC West here. The defending NFC champion Seahawks in this division turnover at user after the season, so this division's really up in the air. We'll take a look here at the Cardinals roster first. I think another roster that's really in a tough spot. Week 1 was a loss 17-24 to the, or was a win, I do believe, or I apologize, 24-17 over the 49ers, a team that won 10 games last year and only got better for a 49ers team, so that's an impressive win, I think.
Yeah, that is a very impressive win. This division is just very tough, though. You know, the offense was pretty middle of the pack through week 1. The defense, they got some players there: Patrick Peterson, Chandler Jones, David Onyemata, Jordan Hicks. I'm just not sure. If they don't win this division, it's going to be real tough getting a wild card spot in the NFC.
Speaking of those, 2 of those guys you just listed, and Patrick Peterson, Chandler Jones, will be free agents at the end of the season, getting up there in age, as well as David Johnson. Depending on how the season goes, you might to either look to bring them back or not, depending on how good you do, I think.
Right.
As we move into the Seahawks team here, we're not going to get too much into them because they currently are userless. But I do think if a user did pick them up, they'd have a pretty good roster.
Right. Anytime you're coming in with Bobby Wagner and Russell, you feel pretty confident as a user. So whoever inherits this team, if they're a competent player, this is a real tough division if somebody comes in here
Yeah.
and really shake it up with the Seahawks roster.
Yep, and we got move on to the 49ers here. A team that obviously, as it speaks for in real life, is very talented. A lot of playmakers. A team that won 10 games, couldn't make the playoffs last year. The problem I do believe here is you're going to have to bring back McGlinchey and Fred Warner. You're going to have to start paying this young core, Dante Pettis, Eric Armstead, upcoming free agents. So you're going to be paying them quite a bit of money. Is that going to cost you to lose some other players?
Yeah, and I think this defense is definitely what this team's going to revolve around. The offense has not been that impressive to start, but we'll just have to see if they can turn it around here.
Yeah, your running game has gotten a little bit worse after losing you have Jerick McKinnon, I should say, but you lose Tevin Coleman.
Right.
And we move into the Rams here. I do believe this will probably be my pick to win the division. Here are the Rams. Started off 1-0, nice close game between the Buccaneers, week 1. Good win for them, I think, to start off this season. A team with a lot of promise.
Yeah, I'm going to have to take the Rams here. This offense, personally, is very hard to stop. They got quite a bit of speed, between Brandon Cooks and John Ross. Yeah, their pickup in free agency. John Ross really hasn't done a whole lot to start the season, but I could see him getting going. This offense could be pretty scary, I think.
Yeah, John Ross, 5 receptions for 64. Robert Woods, 6 receptions for 124 and 3 touchdowns. Brandon Cooks, 6 receptions for 89. Just came out and kind of just did what they wanted.
Right. So if this offense can really get cooking, it's scary. And this defense, they're better than, what they're showing, 27th in points. If they can really start showing up, this team is going to be really scary, I think.
Yep, and so I'll probably take the Rams to win this one, but I definitely think the 49ers or Cardinals could get a wild card spot in the NFC.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. I think if Seattle can get a good owner, this could
It's gonna be a
this is going to be a
bloodbath.
real tough
Yeah.
division. It could really, it could go any way, any four of combinations. I think.
All right, and that is our preseason / week 1 / week 2 preseason podcast / talk here. We're gonna do another one here at the conclusion of week 8, and we'll kind of take a look at where they're at, where everybody is at that point, and we'll talk a bit more about what we're projecting for teams and what the playoff picture is going to look like.